I've been meaning to make this video for a while now, but every time I sat down to do it, I ran into the same problem. AI's impact on the fashion industry is so big, so complex, so layered, and so emotionally charged that it's almost impossible to condense that down into one, hopefully not too long video. I mean, it's disrupted every single corner of the fashion industry. And whilst brands are firmly convinced it's the next new thing and have invested time, money, and resources into it, it doesn't seem like such a good deal from where we're sitting as consumers. Not to mention, of course, the massive elephant in the room, which is AI's environmental impact. There's so much nuance to this topic that I'm almost guaranteed to leave something out, but I'm gonna do my best to give you an overview of AI's impact on fashion because I promised I would. So let's do it. Before we get into it, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Katie. I talk about fashion in the context of sustainability and online culture. If that sounds good to you, if you enjoy this video on AI in particular, then make sure you subscribe because I think it's a topic I'm going to be talking about a lot. Okay, and also let's go through some quick disclaimers for this video. The first being that in order to research and talk about AI, I did actually have to use AI at some points, which I normally go out of my way not to do. But for some parts of this video where an example of it being used in a certain context wasn't already available to me, using it was unavoidable. And my second disclaimer is that this is a video talking specifically about AI in the fashion industry, which is very different to say talking about AI in medicine or science or something a little bit less creative and maybe more serious. I just wanted to make that very clear. But anyway, now we've gone over that, let's get on to the video. I guess we should start by proving my very bold claim I made in the intro and discuss whether AI has actually infiltrated every single layer of fashion. Well, it's definitely infiltrated what we're wearing. From the actual clothes we're wearing, or I guess accessories, there's also the very big example of people using ChatGPT and other language models as a personal stylist. And I think this is one of the most interesting uses of AI and something I'm going to come back to a lot in this video. AI has also managed to change how we're shopping. Once again, the ChatGPT shopping assistant comes into play here because people are literally using it to search the internet, have it find their perfect wide leg jeans or white t-shirt without having to do all of that research themselves. Even if people aren't searching this out themselves, brands are integrating AI assistants into their own websites too, because they see the power in this. And experts are betting that this is going to be the new way we shop in the future. Still talking about how we're shopping, AI is also making it so much easier to visualize yourself in clothes without even having to try them on first. Tools like Mirror Mirror are allowing people to see what runway looks look like on them. Whilst Pinterest has a new feature designed to make search results feel more inclusive and personalized to you by filtering by body type and skin type. Along with the change in how we're shopping comes what we're shopping. And I think this is the first example of where AI can be used for malicious intentions. Secondhand platforms are being bombarded by AI listings of crappy clothing designed to look more luxurious, which makes shopping on those platforms a lot harder. And on the flip side, it's also making it harder for sellers because some buyers are using AI to fake defects on things they've purchased so they can get a refund whilst keeping the item. AI has also infiltrated what we're reading in fashion. Like the fact in some cases, it's trying to supplement or even replace editors and writers talking about fashion, the success of which we're going to be talking about later in the video. It's also disrupted the traditional advertising models and the newer advertising models and the people we see online. The rise of the AI influencer is a video in itself. And despite the heavy online backlash to this, brands are still pushing forward fake personalities, even going so far as to give them fake hobbies so that they seem less like just shopping influencers and more like an influencer you will follow for lifestyle content too. This, of course, being entirely separate to the issue of AI faking influencer content in order to capitalize off influencers' trust-built relationships and sell people crap. I said it's disrupting traditional advertising too, and that's because AI models are now a thing. And once again, brands are pushing something that just does not seem to resonate with people. The H&M twin AI model controversy is something I've covered before on this channel, and I know a lot of you agree when I say that this feels dystopian. And let's wrap it up with the final few ways AI is disrupting the industry, because I feel like we've covered a lot of the consumer-facing aspects, but a lot of the AI usage in fashion is a little less less glamorous. Brands are now using it for things like trend and stock analysis, simplifying and speeding up the returns process for consumers, and just plain old customer service. Although there's still managed to be some controversy with these seemingly mundane admin tasks. I know I've left some things out. It's almost impossible to talk about all the ways AI has crept into fashion, but I feel like that's an inexhaustive list of examples and probably some of the most prolific cases of AI being used. It's so integrated in the fashion industry that it's even inspired reverse trends, an anti-AI sentiment that's taken over fashion and influenced some brand decisions, especially public-facing ones, and something we're going to talk about later. So moving on to part 2 of this video, talking about what all of this means. Because it's clear fashion has gone all in on AI, and they're now trying to normalize or even glamorize this new phase of fashion to us as consumers, with promises of personalized shopping and overly perfect marketing. It's almost as though they're racing to make this become the new normal, so we don't have time to stop and ask the important questions, like what the impact of all this excitement and convenience is. I want to break this down and talk about the impact of all this AI for brands, more importantly for us as consumers, but firstly, the environment. Because, and I'm sure a lot of us are very aware by now, so I'm not going to dwell on this, but this new technology comes at a high price for our planet. AI has an extraordinarily high energy usage, especially when you think of how often people have to guide and correct ChatGPT into getting the answer they were looking for, and also how it's become a bit of a meme to use it for frivolous requests, probably because we can't see that energy usage. It's also using copious land, water, and resources. I recently watched a video about people who were living next to one of these massive data centers that tech companies keep building in order to put up with all of this AI usage. And seeing the realities of that is enough to put anyone off AI, and I highly recommend watching one of these videos. I don't think I'm going to blow anyone's mind when I talk about AI's impact on the environment. I think it's a very well-known thing, and the fact that fashion doesn't seem to care about its impact and is just pushing it like every other industry that's jumped on this hype train is very on brand. Because why would the fact that AI is destroying the planet stop an industry that's been doing just that for 2 decades now? The evidence of fast fashion's impact on the planet has been well known for years and years, and it's something the industry continues to ignore. So AI is just another thing to add to that list, which brings us on to discussing the impact of AI on brands. Because for them, it seems like there's more reasons to say yes than no. Like we said, brands are using AI for everything from increasing their productivity and efficiency in their logistics, bringing out new features like shopping assistants and product recommendations and virtual try-on rooms to make shopping that much more seamless for consumers, but also, to be fair, could help the industry cut down on things like waste and returns and other problems that have long plagued the industry. But I don't think that's what brands are most excited about with AI. In fact, I think the most important part they're focusing on is the fact AI and language models like ChatGPT are changing the way people are shopping and how they discover products. Just like social media and influencers changed how people discovered brands and who controlled the trend cycle, AI is now reshaping how people find things online. As people start using ChatGPT as a personal styling assistant or a personal shopper that can search the web and find the perfect thing you're looking for with minimal effort. Just like brands once had to optimize their websites to show up high on Google, they're now optimizing to show up high on AI search results, and likely planning to move around their marketing budget to get some of those sponsored placements that models will soon be offering. I mention marketing budgets because all of this AI development is definitely costing a lot of money. Good thing there's a relative gold rush happening around AI right now. New tech startups are popping up left and right, and venture funding in the area has and probably will continue to be huge. Fire is one of the best examples of what happens when you mix the hype of AI and the hype around big names with fashion. I mean, when the daughter of Bill Gates starts a new company and her dad advertises it on his LinkedIn, it makes sense that it's going to secure $8 million in seed funding and celebrity investors like Kris Jenner and Hailey Bieber. Another example of AI fashion startups that I want to briefly talk about is Finesse, which raised close to $45 million from investors recently. Finesse describes itself as the first AI-led fashion house and also calls itself Netflix meets Zara. They create fast fashion clothes based on social media votes, shopping data, and viral trends. And this is meant to be the new wave of fashion. You can see why I'm concerned. Fashion should also be concerned because the thing about AI is that it's not profitable, like at all. And fashion is funneling millions of pounds into a venture that currently has no way of returning it and seems to spark controversy every single time it's used. I just think it's interesting seeing fashion happily giving money to something that doesn't really have a business model when for years they've been debating who's going to pay for sustainability. Where was this money when garment workers were going unpaid during the pandemic? If AI is good for one thing, it's exposing where fashion's priorities lie once and for all. And to be honest, I think this was made clear at the Copenhagen Sustainability Conference that I attended this summer. There was an AI talk going on that I thought was going to be a healthy debate about how it can be helpful in the industry and how it definitely can't be. But little did I know it was just a chance for some of these AI companies to come on and flaunt their services with almost no mention of the environmental impact at a sustainability conference. In fact, the only time this was brought up was by the audience. And the panelists literally answered a question about how we mitigate the impact of AI by saying that AI will think of a way. In summary, I think the only downside the fashion industry is seeing to AI right now is the online pushback. And they've even found a workaround for this, which we're going to get to in just a second. For now, let's discuss the impact for us as consumers, because we're constantly being sold AI as this great thing that's going to make our lives more efficient, more optimized. Whether that's a good thing or not is up for debate, but it's certainly being marketed to us as a pro. And this is where I really want to get into the ChatGPT shopping assistant example, because I do think it helps consumers overwhelmed by choice and information or not sure of their own style to narrow down results and therefore maybe go through less trial and error when buying and returning. But there are questions about what this technology can and can't do. Can it spot greenwashing, for example? Well, Bella Webb, a sustainability journalist at Vogue Business, asked this exact question, and she found it very hard to get ChatGPT to recommend her an actually sustainable item. Again, there's so much I could go into that point, but I also want to talk about the curation conversation and whether many of us using ChatGPT as a stylist is going to eventually flatten our individuality in dressing. There's already been many examples go viral online of when people trust the TikTok algorithm too much, and that's made up of human beings. Can you imagine how much worse it will be if we're all trusting the same language model to know what to wear? Again, I have so many thoughts on this, and I know I want to do another video talking about this, so let me know your thoughts and I can include it. But another flaw with using ChatGPT as a shopping assistant is actually how easy it promises to make shopping. If we're reducing the amount we need to search on the internet to find our perfect item, reducing the amount of time we need to research the brand's ethics or second guess what their returns policy is and whether this will actually suit our style or not, is this not removing some of the necessary friction that makes us stop to think about whether we actually want an item or not, which just makes overconsumption all the more easy? With ChatGPT's new instant checkout feature, for example, you don't even need to leave the app in order to buy the item, meaning you're entirely dependent on what the AI has told you about that item and that brand, and you barely even need to think before clicking buy and moving on with your day. I'm not entirely against using AI for shopping in specific scenarios. I definitely see the value in using AI tools to narrow down the flood of results on secondhand platforms, for example, or using platforms like Benny, which allow you to search the entire internet and mean you don't have to jump between platforms to find what you're looking for. I feel like in this way, you're still being deliberate with your searches, but you're not having to spend so much time sifting through. Even this has reservations in my mind though. Like, even if you're not using AI to search the web, you're using it for something like analyzing your style and finding prompts you can put into secondhand websites in order to get better results. Does using all these resources to curate a better vintage algorithm not defeat the environmental impact of shopping secondhand in the first place? I'm not even sure, and I don't even subscribe to the belief of being perfectly sustainable all the time, but I still think it's an interesting debate. Okay, if you're still with me, I love you. We're coming to the end, because having discussed all of that, the new ways AI is being used, the benefits and many drawbacks of it, I still think we've missed out talking about a big problem when it comes to AI. Do people actually want it? I think on a personal level, so much of AI creeping into fashion feels insidiously isolating, turning us into nothing more than a capitalist machine. It feels like fashion is saying to us, why do you need to see clothing through the lens of someone else's creativity and how they're going to style something? Why not just buy it in one click? Why should you take a minute out of your day and stop a stranger on the street and say, hey, I love your top, where is it from? When your AI glasses can do that for you and you look cute but also skip human interaction. Why do you want to hear an actual human's reaction and breakdown to a runway show? Or politely chat to a human being for a few minutes while they process your return online? Just keep buying with so little friction that you don't actually have time to stop and think about whether you want to consume or not. That's how I feel every time I see fashion cuddling up to AI. And although I don't think everyone feels the exact same thing, I know that a lot of people don't like to see this new technology coming into the industry. And I think fashion is noticing this and starting to realize using AI is not always going to be the better option. Just look at the whole Klarna fiasco, or the reaction online to the Skechers ad, or the friend necklace, or the Guess advert in Vogue. Don't get me wrong, fashion has never been an ethical industry, and there have always been issues. But I think the rise of AI is bringing a lot of these issues to light in people's eyes, and it's all just becoming too much for people, especially when AI is so new and avoidable. Like, we know how to live without it, so why should we just be lying down and accepting it? The anti-AI sentiment online is so interesting to me, and I think it's strongest in areas like fashion media, where you could say human expression and emotion is the entire point. People who read magazines, people who work for these magazines, are angry at not just the idea of AI taking their jobs, but at what could be lost from the art form if it does. There's this great quote I want to share. The whole point of fashion media is perspective, and AI is a vacuum of perspective. And I think although that's really specific to fashion writing, it's the same for every other aspect of creativity in fashion. If a human hasn't written this, if a human hasn't photographed this or posed for this, then what's the point? Where is the emotion, the history, the wanting to connect that makes anything worth looking at? Not to mention, of course, that this content is so often built off the backs of people who have done it before and then been scraped by an AI platform off the internet and rejumbled into something new. Like I said, I think fashion is listening to this, and the anti-AI sentiment is something that's been creeping into fashion marketing. The most obvious and interesting examples, I think, are the brands hiring artists to create creative campaigns that seem to stand in the face of AI. But I also think we're seeing this anti-AI sentiment in the rise of radical transparency online, or the rise of sensory marketing, and of course any form of IRL marketing that's become so popular this year. Obviously, it's great that brands are hiring artists in their quest for anti-AI, but there's still this little hint of slightly insidious marketing that kind of overshadows the whole thing in my mind. Now, I could explain this myself, but I actually got a comment on the channel that I think is perfect, so I'm just going to put it on the screen. Anyway, I think I'm going to have to cut myself off here for this video because I have yapped on long enough. The voting for whether this would be one big video on AI or a small series was so close that I think I'm going to do a bit of both. This is my overview brain dump of where I am at with this subject right now, and then in the future I'm going to be doing a little series every time something interesting pops up, or you guys comment something on my videos that I think is interesting, or even if for this video you put a comment saying that you want me to dig into something more specifically, and we'll just do it as we go along, because obviously AI is not going anywhere and I find this really interesting to talk about. So what I will say for now is I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, subscribe if you did, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.